Hey everybody, welcome back to the Holderheck channel. Today we're going to be utilizing a new format called me actually talking to you instead of using my WoW character to sit there and make it look like he's waving and talking, because there's really only so many places and so many ways you can do that before it becomes a little redundant. So most of my videos are just me ranting on my monitor anyway, so we're just going to do that now in more of a interactive way. This video is going to be about the Elemental Flurry build and builds like the Elemental Flurry build. I mentioned that in my Nightfall video. You can check that out there. And that video has been getting a lot of really positive feedback, you could say, from the Shaman community, and very negative feedback from everybody else, as per expected with the internet. So, since that happened, and now even more people are viewing my channel, I feel like it would be a great time to go into a really weird spec combination that could allow you to potentially do something unheard of in Vanilla WoW, and that's called Dual Spec. So Dual Spec came out in the later expansions, and it's not actually in Vanilla. These aren't actually a dual spec. But what it is a spec that allows you to play one way in raids and play another way in PvP, which I think is what most of us are trying to go for. Anyway, we're going to get into it now. The first thing we're going to go over are the various specs you can utilize to make this happen. Additionally, I'd like to do a quick shout out to Pariah/Lordzapam from the Chad Hansmith Shaman Discord and the Classic Shaman Discord. A lot of this came from his personal theory crafting, utilizing the hit button spreadsheet, and just generally thinking super out of the box, and I really appreciate that. I think being able to do things in a different way than just the tried and true way is really the heart of playing a meme spec to begin with, so a lot of this stuff, again, works really well on paper. We're going to see if it works well in-game as Phase 3 happens, as the real gearing for it doesn't exist until then and then onwards, but I just wanted to do a shout out to him to begin with, because without him, this really wouldn't have been possible. So thank you, Pariah. Like I said before, this spec can be utilized for different play in PvE and PvP, but that is not to say that this spec has only one variant. We're going to go quickly into a couple different versions of it, a PvP only variant, a PvE only variant, and then one variant that is not even really the same spec, but I'm throwing it in there because some people use it. So let's do that. First one's going to be your pure PvE version, and I say pure PvE even though it's really not, but let's just go with the pure PvE version. You're buffing your shocks, you're buffing your fire totems. That allows you to chain together your fire nova into magma totem. I spoke about that a long time ago in my AoE DPS guide, and check that out. Way over there, yeah. So basically you'd open with like a chain lightning in most scenarios, and then just start chaining together your fire nova magma, that would be AoE, and then fire nova and searing on single target. Anyway, that's all covered in the other video, you can check it out. This build allows you to do all of that, but better with Elemental Mastery, and then you also go all the way down to Flurry in your enhancement tree. This allows you to still hit very hard, while then chaining together bigger magical damage. We have calculated, and I mean we by being Pariah, because I'm not a math guy, that realistically the talents of Elemental Weapons and Weapon Mastery don't add that much DPS to your attacks. Now again, that's what it looks like on paper. In actuality, we will find out, but it is very intriguing to me to try this out. Maybe you guys can try this out as well, and you can tell me. I've yet to use this in a raid scenario. Anyway, this is the PvE version. If you switch to the PvP version, you can see the ones you would take instead. Shield specialization, of course, reducing the cooldown on your grounding totems, having Eye of the Storm so you can cast while under fire. You could even make a case for dropping a couple points in concussion and getting Earth's Grasp to get like even more Earthbind range. But I remember in testing that doesn't really boost its range all that much, but anyway, it allows you a little bit of free form there, and of course, you know, it's still Ghost Wolf to, you know, run flags if you have to. Anyway, those are the two different variations of Elemental Flurry, and then you can obviously, again, hybridize them and switch this talent for that talent, or this talent for that talent. Listen, guys, not all of this is exactly set in stone, but this gives you a baseline to run with. One of the last specs I want to go over is just going to be Elemental Fury. This is a slight variation of the Elemental Flurry build where you take more points in enhancement, but you don't get Storm Strike. I tried this in PvP for a little while. It's awful. Do not use it in PvP. However, Snoo from, again, the Chad Hantzman Shaman Discord and the Classic Shaman Discord used this to get a world record-setting DPS run. So this build proves, almost in a way, that the Elemental Flurry build has extreme potential, but we're going to see again if that really works in raid scenarios. But this build's really good for PvE if you can't Storm Strike or if you don't want to Storm Strike for some reason. But I just wanted to include it in there because it's a really close kind of build and it gives you a feel for what you're going to be doing, because you'd still be totem twisting the fire totems together. Now we're going to move into the gear you're going to be using for these specs. We're going to go over the gear set that I created, as well as the gear set Lorzapam/Pariah created. You're also going to notice that I have swapped some enchants here, and I've also swapped strength to haste. There's only so many times people can come at you with the math of something before you finally agree that numbers are numbers and numbers make sense. So haste generally seems to scale better and work better in PvE scenarios than strength. So you don't want to put haste on your PvP gear, but if it's just PvE gear, haste is going to win out in the end. So thank you, Hit Button. I agree. Thank you for your spreadsheet. You are correct. Anyway, so this is the gear set I'm going to be using for 3120 or 2130, and I say going to be using, I'm going to be testing it. Only a couple of things change from your baseline Storm Strike enhancement build. This is, of course, utilizing the Black Dragon Scale set. As I said before, if the Warsong Gulch Pants come out in Phase 3 instead of Phase 6, this is going to change the whole landscape, but they probably won't. If they do, it's going to be a blessing. But let's just assume they don't. So 3-piece Black Dragon Scale is going to be your BIS for Storm Strike enhancement. Moving back into the Elemental Flurry and Elemental Fury gear set, only a few things change. We swapped out the shoulders for Black Brood Pauldrons. These things are on paper garbage, but they give you a little bit more staying power as well as some melee crit, so they're at least salvageable. You could swap those for 10 Storm Shoulders to get more spell crit if you wanted. I'm going with these because I think they look better with the rest of the gear, and style is always BIS, okay? Moving over here, you're going to have Angelista's Grasp. I have it on pretty good authority on my mages and warlocks that this thing is trash and they don't want it because there's no damage. That's good for you because it allows you to get spell hit, something you desperately need when a lot of your damage is coming from spells. Also, Primalist Linked Laggards, giving you more spell crit and more spell hit. Those are the only 3 pieces that we're changing out. The rest of it's just going to be your regular enhancement set. Isn't that great to hear? I think that's great to hear. If you run out of world buffs, you can just quickly swap to this and just do more melee damage. It's all you have to do. Now, as I said before, the versatility of this spec and this gear is what really comes into play when you want to go PvP. If you want to go PvP, you can just drop into a full elemental set, because believe it or not, you're 31 points in elemental. You're an elemental shaman. Wear this gear. This gear is not BIS for PvP by any means, but it's gear that you can pick up and still do a ton of damage and have enough survivability to be very, very useful in any PvP scenario. There's gear here that you can swap out if you have better versions of it. This is just here to give you a baseline. As well, if you want it to be a PvE zappy boy, you could just swap this Malistar's Defender for Therazane's Touch and then do even more magical damage. But this is why it's so great, guys. You can be a zappy boy if you wanted. You can be a bonky boy if you wanted. This spec allows you to do anything you want. It has maximum potential. Not as much potential as 000. I'm stealing that joke because it's very funny. Not as much potential as 000. But enough potential, and I really, really like it, and I think it's going to be worthwhile moving into Phase 3 to try out new stuff like this, to see how it's going to work, to see if we can even change the meta even more than we already have by completely disregarding it and doing whatever the hell we want. The last gear set we're going to go over is going to be Lorzepam / Pariah's gear set. This one utilizes far more spell crit, spell hit, spell power than mine, as well as some of the different enchants he has on this gear. At the end of the day, I feel like this one on paper does more PvE DPS, but again, we're going to see what actually happens and what plays out in BWL. Additionally, he uses a modified Elemental Fury build, 21 points in Elemental Fury, down to Elemental Weapons and Enhancement, and then improving your totem mana cost in Restoration. This is to maximize that totem twisting Fire Nova totem damage, and on paper, again, this does even more damage than mine, so I'm going to include it in the write-up underneath the video. You can check that out there. Once again, thank you, Pariah Lorzepam, for coming up with this stuff and helping me help everyone else. Okay, that's going to be it for the video today, everybody. I hope you found it informative, or if not informative, at least entertaining as always. I don't know how I personally feel about giving up Stormstrike. Well, I can tell you how I personally feel about giving up Stormstrike. I don't want to do it, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to stick with this build beyond testing it, but we're going to see how it works. I definitely feel like there's a niche in there for this build, especially for people who aren't allowed to use Stormstrike by their brain-dead raid leads, and by people who are forced to use Nightfall by potentially those same brain-dead raid leads. Yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Let me know if you like this build, if you're going to try out this build, how you feel about it. Give me some comments below. Self-promotion time. If you like what I do here, please give me that like and subscribe, ring the bell so you're notified when new videos come out. Even if you hate what I do here, get that like and subscribe so that when new videos come out, you can dislike them immediately. That also helps my algorithm, so please, please, please do that. If you really like what I'm doing here, definitely check me out on Twitch at The Holder Heck. I'm streaming 3 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week, when I decide that sleep is unimportant. Every single one of your Twitch Prime subscriptions may or may not go towards a hot and ready pizza that will slowly dissolve me from a fitness boy to a chonky boy. We don't know if that's gonna happen. It might be on you. So definitely give me those Twitch Prime subscriptions so I can completely change my lifestyle and become a NEET and just live wrapped in my blankie, eating tendies, playing WoW all day. It's all I want from life, for the love of God. I hope you all have a fantastical rest of your day, week, month, year. Check out next week for the next video, and until then, bye-bye.